great to see such a lot of people here. Thank you for coming. Well, tonight is to celebrate the money that we raised at this year's show and to present cheques to local charities. That's what the aim of the show is, to raise lots of money for local charities. So we're going to present cheques this evening.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I've been given the honour of being the president, which I think is fantastic for this wonderful little show, and the committee I must congratulate to keep it running and make all this money. And I know it's a terrific lot of work. I mean, we used to do it, Paddy and myself, years ago, shows and what have you, and it is a terrific thing. But these little shows, you must keep them going if you possibly can, or they just disappear forever.
My name's Paula and I am from Rainbow's Children's Hospice, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me along this evening, and thank you for the wonderful donation. That money will go to support the work at Rainbow's. I know some of you are probably quite familiar with Rainbow's and what we do, but for those that aren't as familiar, we are actually your local children's hospice. We're the children's hospice for the East Midlands, and we're the only children's hospice in the East Midlands. We're actually based over in Loughborough in Leicestershire, and we care for children from this area and across the region that have life-limiting and life-threatening illnesses who aren't expected to reach adulthood. Now, none of us ever expect to be told that our child or our children are going to die before we do, and thankfully most of us are fortunate enough never to have to face something like that. But for those families that do, Rainbow's does become an absolute lifeline. Now, we can't change the fact that these children are going to die, but what we can do is promise them that they're not going to have to face it alone, and we're there for the families, supporting them, caring for the children, and what is very often a long and difficult journey. And we can only do that with the help and support of people like you here this evening. We have to raise in the region of £5 million every year to keep the hospice going. We actually get less than 10% of that in funding from the government, so over 90% of the income that we need every year we have to go out there and find, and people like you are very kind in helping us to raise that money. So on behalf of all the children and their families at Rainbow's, thank you so much for your support, because it really, really is appreciated.
Draycott Church is beautiful. It's beautiful on the outside, and perhaps in many ways inside it's more beautiful. Many months ago it fell into disrepair, and you will know that it had its tower taken down for safety reasons. Can I say that in the past few months, whilst we've been connecting more and more with the community in Draycott, I and others in the church have been overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of goodwill that exists in the community for that church. Absolutely stunned. In fact, we, as you may know, had an article in the Burton Mail, and an elderly lady who was in her 80s, who now lives in Rolleston, phoned me and said, "I'd like to give you a cheque for £200 for Draycott Church." So, can I say to the committee from the Agricultural Show, a huge thank you, and a huge thank you to people within the community who've shown us such great goodwill. Thanks ever so much.
The money comes from the community of Draycott supporters every year. We've had an agricultural and horticultural show which has been going since, we think, 100 events and more than 100 years, because it didn't run during a couple of the wars. But we've lost the record, so we don't know quite when it was. However, 31st of August this year, on the Sunday, it's our show, and everybody is welcome and you can pay on the gate. It's a traditional country show. This year we're having the birds of prey who are going to be flying around live. We're going to have a circus tent where the children can be taught circus tricks and makeup and things like that. We've got a children's fair with a Ferris wheel. We have all sorts of agricultural events such as beekeeping, llama wool spinning, sheep shearing, all those sorts of country crafts that we like to